Hello everyone and welcome to this Privacy Rules Privacy Espresso. Today we are going to have the first episode of a series of 2 espressos because we are going to speak about data transfer in and out of Hong Kong. And we are going to do that with Pádraig Walsh from the law firm based in Hong Kong, Tanner DeWitt. As data transfer is one of the most relevant topic of the moment, we decided to focus on that with the perspective of someone coming from a country out of the European Union in particular. As we perfectly know, there are various issues that have impacted this sector. But let's start immediately to speak with Pádraig about this topic. Probably we can start from data imports. And in particular, what I would like to ask you is, we know that there has been many relevant changes under the perspective of data transfer, in particular after the Schrems showcase that has impacted this sector quite a lot and this activity quite a lot. We would be interested to know more on how this has impacted your practice in Hong Kong.
Well, I think there are two things that I can point to on that, Alessandro, that may be interesting for the audience. First is that we're now frequently requested to help prepare what are called a transfer impact assessment in respect of data imports from the European Economic Area, the EEA, to Hong Kong, which is to provide an assessment of Hong Kong laws as it relates to certain privacy safeguards that are understood and enshrined under GDPR. So that started as a trickle after Schrems 2, but certainly in the last 12 to 18 months has become a regular piece of work that we are requested to help on. The other second thing that is interesting also is that as has happened in respect of other systems of data privacy laws around the world, there is a trend to legal systems elsewhere adopting similar processes in respect of data transfers from their jurisdiction to third-party countries. Now, one of the interesting jurisdictions there is mainland China, because as your audience may know, Hong Kong and the rest of China are actually two different legal systems. So in that sense, the transfer of personal information from mainland China to Hong Kong is a transfer of data between two different jurisdictions. There's been significant changes in respect of the protection of personal information in mainland China, of which one is the obligation on data exporters in mainland China to get a reassurance about the safety and security of personal information if it is transferred to or sent to a third country. In this case, Hong Kong would be a separate jurisdiction. So we have also seen similar processes being requested of us by businesses or law firms representing businesses in mainland China in respect of the transfer of personal information and personal data from mainland China to Hong Kong as a data importer.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for this, quick and brief introduction to the topic. In general, the various laws you have out there are asking for requirements that also the law in Hong Kong should respect. So how do you see the Hong Kong law meeting these requirements?
Well, Hong Kong is actually a good jurisdiction in this regard, because in most of the transfer impact assessments we've conducted, the approach we take is to analyze the piece of legislation that has the most powers for enforcement authorities. And that's actually relating to the normal investigation of crime conducted by the police force. And within the architecture for how those investigations are conducted, you have the series of procedural safeguards that are expected and meet international norms, including the kind of norms that would be challenged or interrogated by a transfer impact assessment. So in that sense, Hong Kong has done rather well. Also, there isn't any program of mass surveillance in respect of data being transmitted through Hong Kong. So Hong Kong falls out of the net, which was that was one of the problems or concerns in respect of the Schrems 2 decision, So in general, Hong Kong has a good track record. And, oftentimes now the trend in respect of transfer impact assessments is where the party responding in respect of the laws of the data importer is requested to give a rating or a traffic light system, red for being, not protected at all, and giving different gradings or percentage rankings from there. Generally, Hong Kong comes up in a positive light in respect of those rankings. So it's not a bad jurisdiction.
Perfect. And speaking about these, do you see, or which are the trends that you foresee in this sector?
Well, one of the things that I've seen in respect of the transfer impact assessments we've done over the past 2 years or so is that at the outset, we were asked questions in a variety of different ways, even if they were trending to the same subject matter. So if you're asked a question in a different way, you tend to respond to that in a different way because you're looking to answer the specific question that you're asked. One of the trends that I've noticed is that the questions now are becoming more consistent in how they're framed and phrased, which means that the response that we're able to give is a more consistent kind of response. And that has another trend, which is that it does tend to lower the price point in respect of the delivery of the service, because if you're asked the same question in the same way, you don't have to consider a range of issues because you've probably answered that question already, but in a different context. Instead, what the analysis needs to be is to have more of an understanding around the underlying service or the underlying product that relates to the data that's being transferred, and making it a more customized response to the specific issues involved in that particular product or service. Now, that's one of the things that I think is getting more to the spirit of Schrems 2, because I'm sure that other commentators have shared with you, Alessandro, different perspectives as to the real value or merit of this transfer impact assessment process. There is a way in which it can become a box ticking exercise that doesn't really have the purpose of protecting the individual's personal information and providing that comfort. But if it's something where there's a base foundational knowledge that is already there, because it becomes almost a commoditized product in respect of the base foundation advice that's given, then there's more of a chance to achieve what Schrems 2 was really after, which is giving the customized guidance for the specific task or assignment in question for that particular data transfer and that data that's coming into Hong Kong. So that is probably the trend that I foresee, where already there's a more of a convergence to the type of question and the specific questions that were asked, that there's a lot of similarity now in the questions, more so than there was at the outset of this. And then in time, I think there will be more bandwidth for data exporters to be more concerned and specific about the unique nature of the product or service underlying the data transfer that they're involved in. That's the trend that I foresee.
Okay, that's extremely interesting, Pàdraig, and thanks a lot, because we understand that in general, the Hong Kong jurisdiction seems to be a, let's say, good one to have exchange with, or one that doesn't make it too difficult, I would say. So looking forward to see which are the trends and if they are hopefully aligned with what you were foreseeing. Thanks a lot for being with us today and for providing us with this brief overview on data imports in Hong Kong. Looking forward to meet you in our next session on the data exports. And meanwhile, I would like not only to thank you, but also our listeners for being with us today. So bye, Pàdraig, and bye, everyone.